Greetings, metalheads, and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and today I'm back with another underrated album review. Another album that I personally absolutely love, and feel that it just doesn't get the kind of love and appreciation that it actually deserves. Although I will admit, with this particular underrated album, I did struggle to kind of justify it as being an underrated album. I personally feel that it deserves a whole lot more recognition for being a top-notch benchmark thrash metal album. Within the fan base of the mighty Sodom, Tapping the Vein from 1992 might not really be considered underrated. It is quite popular among fans of the band. So in a way, this is underrated in the wider metal world, in the metal scene. This album deserves so much more recognition, so much more love and appreciation than it currently enjoys. Sodom, German thrash metal legends, they've got a lot of albums, a lot of great albums. And this album, Tapping the Vein, was the fifth full-length album, as I say, released in 1992. And actually, interestingly, reading in the booklet of the most recent reissue package, after 32 years, it's seen a 2024 remaster and Redux version. Reading in that booklet that even the band recognise and former members recognise that it's a bit of a cult album. And I think that's fair to say. The fifth album, so this followed on from some other absolute benchmark classic albums and some thrash cult favourites. Persecution Mania, not to forget Obsessed by Cruelty, of course, the brilliant In the Sign of Evil EP. We've also got Agent Orange, bit of a high point in thrash in my opinion. And then we've got the also underrated, but maybe not quite as successful, Better Off Dead album. But you know what? I've been wanting to talk about Tapping the Vein for ages, and the release of this lovely version in 2024 kind of sparked a pretty good reason to talk about Tapping the Vein. So, released in November, I believe, 2024, we've got this lovely triple disc expanded version of Tapping the Vein. It does come in a multitude of different versions. We've got like a double vinyl deluxe version. We've got another version that has the vinyl and the CDs. I've just got the triple CD version here. But I absolutely love Tapping the Vein. And revisiting this album, revisiting Sodom, in fact, has just been a great experience because I do actually reach for Tapping the Vein more than I found anyway, more recently, more than any other Sodom album. This seems to be the one that I keep coming back to. Hence why I feel that it's quite underrated. It's certainly one of my favourite Sodom albums. I think that Tapping the Vein is without a doubt the heaviest album that Sodom had released by this point in their career. And it's a very important album in that it was quite a transitional one. It was the last to feature the now late Chris Witchhunter on drums, and it was the first to feature the young, at that time, Andy Brings on guitar, who replaced Frank Blackfire, who left the band after Better Off Dead and went to join Creator and had a stint with them. But Tapping the Vein, this album has such an atmosphere to it. It's so incredibly dark, it's so incredibly visceral, and I have actually got both versions of the album here. So I've got the original, it was this SPV Steam Hammer, so just the standard. But I've always loved this. I've had this album in my collection for many, many years. Great cover. And I've never really had a problem with the production. It sounds of the time. It has its sound. Overall, it sounds very, very murky. There's a real kind of low sound to it. It's difficult to describe. I'm not a producer or a music engineer of any kind. I'm just a humble metalhead. But I would say it does have quite a distinct sound. And I associate that album with that sound. without a doubt the heaviest sound and the heaviest album to date. I know that some metalheads, some fans consider this album to almost be a bit of a death metal album because of the heaviness. I would probably draw the line at that. I wouldn't say that Tapping the Vein is a death metal album, but I would certainly say that it is a very heavy album, and at times it does teeter on the cusp of, well, is it a bit too heavy to be thrash? Tom's vocals at times are almost like a death growl. Is it thrash? Is it death metal? Let's just say it's a very good Sodom album. So, Tapping the Vein was released in 1992. Another thing to also consider, death metal was picking up pace. Thrash metal was going the other way. The 90s were a very difficult time for thrash metal, as we know. A lot of bands changing their style drastically, experimenting with different things. Sodom were one of the bands that I feel they did pretty well through the 90s. There's a few albums that I actually haven't heard yet or haven't picked up copies of, where maybe they did try different things a little bit, but who can fault them for that? Who can blame them for trying different things when the whole scene was up and down and all around? Of course, you're gonna try and adapt and overcome, kind of find a new way to survive. But Tapping the Vein, this is such a great freaking album. As I say, it might not be a widely underrated album. Fans of Sodom no doubt enjoy it, but I absolutely freaking love it. Any album that kicks off with Body Parts, which is a thrashing, nasty track, incredible riffs there, absolutely love it, blinding stuff, thunderous drums, and Tom's growl, his gruff vocals over the top, excellent. Then absolutely having your face ripped off by the absolutely brilliant Skinned Alive, Say No More. Short and sweet, furiously fast and heavy, it's Sodom at their best. Then we've got One Step Over the Line, slower, bit more of a mid-paced track, heavy, crushing stuff. The groove on that is monstrous. It has such a stomp to it. It's just infectious. Then we get our necks broken well and truly with the thrash pace of Deadline, which is another beastly track. We've also got the punky, kind of energetic, up-tempo Bullet in the Head, which is a brilliant one, packed full of energy, great riffs. Tom's vocals sound great there. Bullet in the Head, great number. Then we've got the cripplingly heavy The Crippler, another great moment, thrashy, dark, one of those tracks that's almost teetering on that death metal, thrash metal cusp there. The very punky, very upbeat and energetic Vakturm, with its German lyrics, a very jovial sounding track, but actually interesting to read in the booklet of the remaster, the Redux version there. It's actually a really dark song. The lyrical content is actually dark. I believe it's about some not very positive experiences that one of the members had. Not to give too much away. Tapping the Vein, the title track, absolutely amazing. One of the heaviest moments and best tracks on the album. Furious riffs. I love the prominence of the bass. Tom Angel Ripper is a great vocalist for thrash. His vocals work so well for Sodom. He's also a brilliant bass player. He plays his bass just like a rhythm guitar, just like the late great Lemmy. Really does a great job. Back to War is brilliant. Thrashing. Then we've got Hunting Season, which is a dark, nasty beast of a track. I absolutely love that number. One of the best tracks, I think. And then the closing brilliant Reincarnation. That nearly 8 minute long track. It's great. It's dark. It's groovy. It's moody. It's energetic. It's brilliant. I absolutely freaking love it. And I think that this original sound is fitting for the album. It was actually produced by Harris Johns, a notable name, and I think that he did a good job. But that's where we then move on to this version. So latter 2024, we've got the multiple different versions released for Tapping the Vein for the I guess, the 32nd anniversary. It says this triple CD edition of Sodom's Cult 1992 album includes the original album but remastered, and that sounds phenomenal. We've then got a redux of the album, including some previously unheard versions, and then we've got a live set from Live in Tokyo 1992. So starting with the remaster then, sounds incredible. Don't need to say too much more than that. The whole album sounds absolutely brilliant. It has really benefited from this remaster. Sometimes I feel that albums don't need a remaster, it's just something to do for an anniversary or something to do to maybe bring the album out again. But actually, I would say that the remaster has really worked with Tapping the Vein. It sounds brilliant. The drums sound so much better. Tom's vocals are so much clearer. The mix is so much better. The riffs sound great. The bass is audible and prominent. The whole thing sounds fantastic. And you just listen to opening tracks, Body Parts and Skinned Alive. Absolutely amazing. They sound so good in this format, in this version. And then favourites for me, like One Step Over the Line, sounds incredible. The whole album sounds amazing, but I think some moments in particular have really benefited, including the title track, Tapping the Vein, and the closing track, Reincarnation. One of the best remaster packages of an album that I have heard in quite a while, I would say. It sounds brilliant. I love this album and I love this remaster. I think it breathes a whole new life into this great album. So then we've got the Redux. They've taken the album and they've played around with it. And again, it sounds great. Some of it sounds like it shouldn't work because it is quite drastically different. Certainly notable in the drums and certainly notable in tracks like Skinned Alive and I believe it's Bullet in the Head. The drums sound so higher up, so loud, and almost a bit kind of snare tinny sound that, if that's even a way to describe it, that it's almost a little bit too much, maybe a bit too noisy. But I think it's a really interesting take on these great tracks. None of the tracks sound like they're being disadvantaged. None of the tracks sound like they're unrecognisable from the original. Testament to the job that's been done on this. It sounds really good. It's enjoyable. I would not say that if you had not heard Tapping the Vein, you should check out that version first. I would certainly not recommend that. I would steer clear of that. If you've never heard Tapping the Vein before, start with either the original or the 2024 remaster. Steer clear of the Redux. If you're a fan of Sodom, of Tapping the Vein, then check it out. It's freaking good. It's enjoyable. It's just a different take on a really great album. And actually, some tracks, again, such as Reincarnation, and tracks like, I think, Back to War, Deadline, they sound really good. They sound aggressive. Some of them sound thrashier on that Redux than they do even on the remaster. Maybe that's just me, but I like it. And on the Redux, we've got some different versions. We've got alternative remix versions of Body Parts, Vaktum, and Reincarnation. And I will say, all of those sound good. And there is notable differences as well, whether it's in the drums on one track or maybe the vocals on another. It's interesting. It does sound different. Again, I wouldn't say those versions are better than the original or better than the remaster, but they're for the fans. If you're a fan and you're a bit of a completionist like me, you like to hear these different versions if they're available, then yeah, you're going to enjoy that. I personally do. And then we have the Live in Tokyo 1992 set. So I was a little bit skeptical about this 12-track live set, because quite often when you get a package like this that includes live in so-and-so, live album from yesteryear, you kind of wonder why it wasn't released in the first place. And quite often it's because it doesn't sound that good. No, I wouldn't say that this Live in Tokyo recording sounds like a top-notch, mint, crisp live recording. No, but that's not what I'm expecting. It does actually sound like a really good energetic, kind of live in the flesh live album. You know, it sounds like an authentic live recording, which is exactly what it is. And actually, it's quite enjoyable. Again, it's for the fans. It's for Sodom fans. It's for fans of the band. Not a great starting point for someone who hasn't heard the album or hasn't heard the band before. But as a fan, I really enjoyed it. It's got some good classics in it, like Sodomy and Lust, Agent Orange, An Eye for an Eye. But what I really love, as someone who absolutely loves Tapping the Vein, it's one of my favourite Sodom albums, we've got, out of 12 tracks on the live recording, we've got 7 songs. 7 tracks from Tapping the Vein. And also 7 very good tracks. The live versions do sound really good and energetic. And actually, tracks like Deadline, we've got The Crippler, Bullet in the Head, Victim, Body Parts, they sound great live. And I can imagine, I've never seen Sodom. I really wish that I had an opportunity. I'd love to see Sodom, and I'd love to hear them play some of these sorts of tracks. That would be brilliant, because they seem to translate so well live. And again, it's interesting to read in the expansive 24-page booklet we get in this version that, you know, there might have been some difficulties within the band. I'm not going to say too much, just in case you do want to check it out for yourself. But some difficulties. Musicians maybe not able to click quite as well with each other as we'd like. But that said, it sounds like a really cohesive band, and it sounds really good. It sounds like a genuine live recording. And actually, that's something else that I noticed about that Redux version, is that it almost has more of a live in the studio kind of vibe and feel to it, a bit more live in the flesh than the original or than the remaster version. So another kind of authentic attraction. It sounds really authentic, even though obviously we know it's been spliced and chopped up and played with, or whatever's happened to it in the Redux. So Tapping the Vein, a truly masterful album. Tom Angel Ripper is an absolute legend, and I think that he's on fine form here. First album to feature Andy Brings, great guitarist. Last to feature the drummer Chris Witch Hunter, sadly no longer with us, but this is a really important, really good album. It's an absolutely brilliant album. If you need further convincing, I'm gonna try and do it ad hoc. 3 tracks that you need to check out and which are pretty much guaranteed to convince you. Body Parts. That is a visceral way to open the album. Absolutely love it. One Step Over the Line. Absolutely killer stuff. It's crushing, it's groovy. I love it. And I would probably say Hunting Season, because it's such a great track. It's a ripper, and it's almost got that Agent Orange kind of vibe to it. I love it. So, there you have it. Tapping the Vein from 1992 is, in my opinion, an underrated gem. I know it gets a lot of love from Sodom fans, justifiably, but actually this is an album that needs more love in the wider thrash and heavy music world. It is a stunner. German thrash metal legends at Sodom are such an important band. People need to be talking about this more. Hence, why I'm rambling on about it today. And actually, this remaster Redux version of Tapping the Vein from latter 2024, this is one of the best remaster reissue packages I've come across in a very long time. As I say, this is well worth it. If you were skeptical because maybe you enjoyed the original, or because, you know, let's be honest, Noise Records and BMG have they've been doing a lot of reissuing and a lot of revamping and putting things out that maybe they don't all need to have been released. Don't want to go down the avenue of talking about all those millions of Motorhead reissues we've had, but sometimes you wonder if it's really necessary. I would say in this case, this works. This is necessary, and this is well worth picking up. It's about £20 on Amazon, I think, so it's well worth it, every penny. A really decent live recording, a fantastic remaster, truly brilliant, and a really good, interesting Redux version as well. Tapping the Vein. What are your thoughts and opinions on this underrated gem? What are your thoughts and opinions on Sodom? Very interested to hear, of course. Get involved. If you've never heard of this album, never heard of Sodom, then you seriously need to do some homework. Go and check it out. Check them out. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed this humble review. Please do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. The support is very much appreciated, as always. Do check back soon for more reviews and ramblings about all good heavy things. Until next time, do take care of yourselves, listen to Sodom, and stay frickin' heavy.